Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris Taylor, and I am the advocate of the devil. For the last couple of weeks, I've been sitting back and relaxing, doing very little. It's a rare occurrence for me. My hobbies are quite simple: read, watch, and play. And amongst those, my favorite thing is to try and combine the two. When I read, I'll have a movie on in the background. When I'm playing a game, 9 times out of 10, I'll have that game's guidebook open in front of me. And when I want to watch a movie, you'll usually find me laying down on the couch, handheld gaming simultaneously. As a human being, I have attempted to multitask whenever possible, given how very little free time I actually have. And the denizens of Hollywood, California have also attempted to combine things in much the same way, to varying degrees of success. Mostly badly. Combining genres or merely trying to adapt one medium into another. It's worked pretty well for the comic book industry thus far, but normal books, not so much. Video games, even less so. Over the last few years, video games have increased their capabilities for telling a good story, almost becoming little movies on their own. But turning a video game into a movie has almost universally failed. In fact, there's an argument that could be said that you should never, ever make a video game movie a game. But here's the thing. There are plenty of times where I've seen a video game movie do its source material justice, and today I'm gonna talk about 3 of them. Now don't worry, Internet, I'm not going to be bringing up Yui Boll in this. In fact, he would be the main reason why video game movies get a bad rap. No, today I'm going to point out what 3 very specific movies did right, and it starts with a series that just recently ended.
Resident Evil. You're all going to die down here.
I'll be the first person in line to mock the Resident Evil movie franchise for various reasons. They took a ludicrous amount of liberties with the lore of the game series. Build Alice as a main character when, quite frankly, there are no ties between her and any other character in the games. But for me, you have to look at what makes those games work, and whether or not that can translate at all to a movie. The very beginnings of the game franchise were survival horror. Limited resources, terrible tank controls, an unending force of creepy human-shaped monsters. If you take a look at the remake of the first Resident Evil, you get a deeply disturbing soundtrack and gorgeous visuals that still hold up today, which probably explains why they keep re-releasing it on every console known to man. And did that translate to the movie? Well, in the original, we get a heavy use of practical special effects, a proven way of keeping things looking realistic and at least decent over time. You get a score by Marilyn Manson, a man who isn't a professional composer, but who has said that while setting up the music for the movies, was experimenting, kind of like a child, learning as he went. You get elements from the games, like bullets not doing nearly enough damage to the enemies. Traps within the underground facility itself. The story is partly confusing too, at least until you get near the climax. Just like in the games. As time went on, the movies moved into a more action-oriented direction, and the games actually followed suit. From Resident Evil 4 onwards, in an effort to stay fresh, the games were less survival and more shoot everything that moves. It's a rare feat where a movie based on a game has a direct effect on the games. But then there's a movie that clearly shows respect and love for the source material, while simultaneously being its own thing. Of course, I'm talking about what could arguably be the absolute best video game adaptation into a movie, Silent Hill. I have to admit, there are few times where I will rewatch a movie in theaters, but this one was good enough for me to pay twice to fully appreciate the work and attention to detail that went into it. The soundtrack, which in my opinion is the greatest way that this game series sucks you into its world, faithfully recreated into the movie. Monster designs are spot on with little CG used, once again setting up the illusion of realism. One element of video games that almost always gets lost in translation is certain game mechanics. It stands to reason since games are more hands-on experience while a movie is more static. non-manipulative one. Certain things are just impossible to recreate from one medium to the other. Survival horror games aren't just about killing creepy crawlies, it's about solving puzzles, and then the items used magically disappear like they never existed. Silent Hill actually incorporated that aspect into the movie, as Rose takes a knife, uses it to cut away a painting to reveal a new path, and then as she's jumping between the buildings, the knife tumbles away, never to be used again. Silent Hill is by far one of the most faithful adaptations of a video game that I've ever seen, and is worth the watch if you're a fan of the genre. However, the last movie I'm about to bring up is, well, at the exact opposite of that spectrum.
No, not again!
Super Mario Brothers. This ain't no game.
Super Mario Bros. Starring Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, this movie is arguably directly responsible for Nintendo being such hardasses about having their properties adapted to film. However, I want you to look at the game's story themselves, of which there isn't really much of one. Rescue the princess that's been kidnapped by the Mushroom Kingdom's version of Godzilla. There are human-looking mushroom things that you can talk to. And the game itself is run to the right. Oh, unless it's a 3D one, in which case you run to whatever task you need to collect a power star. You can't really adapt that into a movie. You can take elements of it, but since Mario is the godfather of video games, no matter what, it won't be good enough to meet expectations. I challenge you to watch the Super Mario Bros. Movie and try to separate it away from the source material. The movie itself is actually not that bad, if in a so bad it's good kind of way. It's a little long, at times it's a little boring, which is unfortunate. But the movie itself, not nearly as bad as other people have said it is. Despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, I do hope I managed to shed some light into what could make a good video game adaptation. Whether it be in showing a reverence for the source material and merely adjusting a few elements to fit within a visual medium, or in a way that a movie-going audience can affect a game series moving forward. Game adaptations are only going to keep happening as time goes on, and gaming becomes even further ingratiated into popular culture. And during those times when a game can't be translated perfectly, let us all take a step back and remember that the best games are the ones that don't necessarily reinvent the wheel, but do what's already been done, but better. And game adaptations deserve to have the time to develop that level of effort and trial and error. As always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for a new piece of my mind every Wednesday. And click the link in the description to see us here at Devious Advocacy attempt to play a video game. Or just yell and scream at each other making excuses for our failures. But most importantly, let your verdict be heard in the comments below. Do you agree? Disagree? Somewhere in between? By all means, let your own views clash with my own, so that I may proceed to prove you wrong.
Kaboom! You've been lawyered.
But for now, in the case of video game adaptations, the defense rests.
Luigi, Mario!
Daisy!
You gotta come with me, I need your help.
What's wrong?
You're never gonna believe this.
I believe it.
You do?
I believe